You're listening to an Anazao Ministries podcast.
Hello, systematic geekology friends. Welcome to another edition of Systematic Geekology Drive-In. It's a new season. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, have a penitent Advent wherever you are in the season. We hope you're having a warm and merry one, and we're excited. My friend Joe and I did a preview of this edition of Systematic Geekology Drive-In, where we preview the movies we're going to cover this Christmas. And today we have what some would consider the top of the best Christmas movies of all time. We're starting off with a banger, and it's A Christmas Story, 1983, A Christmas Story. And I'm just not going to bury the lead. I absolutely love this movie. I saw this in the theaters when I was 11 years old in 1983. And from there on out, like older elementary into middle school, every year from there on out, like my friends would quote and watch this movie and laugh about it and have fun with it. And I'm glad I was able to even pass it on to my own kids. And so that tradition where it's on like the TBS, TNT channels on Christmas Day, they just run it on a loop for like 24 hours or 48 hours, whenever they get started. And we leave it on all day, Christmas Day in my house, and love it that much. So we're excited to do this one. Joe, what was your experience with this movie? What's your hot take? Where does it fall in your Christmas tradition of movies?
So it's funny. I'm only just within the last, honestly, year. I think we're probably only realistically going on year 2 of me actually like enjoying Christmas, because reoriented, redefined, the whole 9 yards. It's a whole thing. But growing up, that was like peak. No, like Christmas is not really like a thing. So like to say that one of these movies pierced that for me and became like an institutionalized part of any semblance of a Christian or Christmas tradition that I had speaks volumes to the significance of the movie. This is for me, there's a short list, right? There's a handful of Christmas movies that I really do dig. But starting right out, I won't bury the lead either. I am one of those people that puts it right at the top of the list, as the seminal Christmas movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, this movie's set in the 1940s. So I just remember going to see it with maybe my mom took me, or maybe she saw it another time, or I just remember her even enjoying it. Yeah, she dropped me off at Star Wars movies. Yeah, she dropped me off at the movies with my friends. Like, we didn't watch a lot of movies together as a family, but I remember her just connecting with this because it's set kind of her time frame, but it crossed generations because you have like brother dynamic, friend dynamic, bullies, the Christmas nostalgia and traditions, and what you want and long for in your toys, and then are you going to get it or not? Do your parents approve or not? All those things you wrestle with, just at like pre-adolescence and trying to find yourself in this world, mixed with like this nostalgia and of Christmas and the traditions that go around it, and whether it's going to work out this year or not. Everybody looks forward to something what you want to do, and sometimes there's surprises along the way. Sometimes a dog rips up your Christmas dinner and you have to go out to eat, and you think your Christmas tradition is ruined that year because of something that has changed, but no, you find a different one, a different kind of warmth and bond with those things. I just think this movie has everything going for it. It's edgy for little kids because they're like, oh, did he cuss? Did he not cuss? He said fudge. He said the F word, but was it really fudge? What did he say? So it just has the full package for me in terms of all those things, whether it's a tradition of putting up a tree or gifts you don't expect to get, or maybe you do expect to get, or that one family member who gives you a gift that's really lame, but your parents think it's important or cool. Like all that stuff is just wrapped up in this incredible movie. But with like the adolescence and the narration of the older person looking back on their life, narrating it, just sets that tone all the way through.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a story. In college, there was a group of us that we kind of opened up our doors and said anybody who doesn't have a place to go,
Mm-hmm.
come have a meal with us, come hang out, whatever. And we made it a habit because so many of us grew up on this movie that we made it a habit of going out for Chinese food at like
Nice.
as dinner every year we did that. Yeah, so I love the fact that you brought up the TBS thing, because that's where I am that generation that like
Mm-hmm.
that they started doing it the 24-hour loop. It would start at 8 o'clock on Christmas Eve night
Mm-hmm.
and then roll straight through for 24 hours till 8 o'clock on Christmas. Yeah, and many a time it was watched as it would cycle through. But yeah, it's one of those movies that you can pass along to the next generation, right? It's one of
Right.
those, and I think it's because you watch it now and you can tell this is a movie about the 40s that was made in the 80s. Like you can tell,
Yeah.
and but there's so much, I guess, coming of ageness to it as a kid that it just, I think there's a lot that kids can see of themselves in the movie. So I think a movie like that just begs to be a generational classic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%. And yeah, I just, this movie is nostalgic for me because I remember seeing it in theaters, but also just my friends quoting it. There's just so many quotes, so many
Yep.
things that just are iconic with this movie that you can hear. So for you, is there a scene? Is there a quote that stands out that, like, when it's on TBS, you're watching, you're like, okay, here it comes. Everyone settle down. Here it comes. Here's my favorite part. I'm going to watch right now.
Um, so quotable lines, every time as kids, if any one of us would say the word smartass, you could hear it in your head as that kid from Christmas Story.
Yeah.
You'll shoot your eye out. That's one of those, especially growing up in a part of the world where back then gun culture wasn't, it was just the culture, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So for kids to have a BB gun or something like that was like not, it was kind of a given, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing a kid really wanting a Red Ryder BB gun and hearing, oh, you're going to shoot your eye out and all that, like that's another one of those things that, like, yeah, that's but yeah, so those are some of my favorite quotable lines. But there's a scene in it where Ralphie's daydreaming and he's coming into his parents' house and he's blind from soap poisoning. And both of the parents are just over themselves because they've poisoned their child. And it's all this kid's fantasy, larger than life sort of thing. Hilarious. Like,
Yes.
gets me every single time. And of course, the scene with Ralphie sitting standing at the bottom of the steps in the bunny jumper, and the dad just goes, "He looks like a pink monstrosity."
Right.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, and there was that, like, go try it on. The mom saying, like, oh, your aunt usually gives you the best gifts. Here, go try it on, go try it on. I had that as a kid. My mom, I would get some, like, clothes, and what kid, like, oh my gosh, I got clothes for Christmas, really? And my mom would always make me go try it on. I'm like, no, there's more presents to open. I can do it later. Go try it on, see if it fits. And I'm like, yeah, they spent time. And looking back on it as a parent now, I was like, they spent time thinking about these things, buying these things. They want to make sure it all works out. So go try it on. I want to make sure this works out, if I had to take it back or not. But as a kid, I hated it. But now I'm like, yeah, I get it. Go try it on. I want to make sure that this is working out. I think for me, the it is like, my family background, like it's definitely the 40s, like the dad is the one at work and the mom's the homemaker, and you have these kind of binaries. The mom's the nurturer, the dad's the provider, and he's trying to fix things but it doesn't really work out. Is he a good dad or not? But he's there for his family, he's trying to provide, so I think those kind of dynamics were somewhat part of my family growing up. And so like this play of like what's going to happen for Christmas, who's creating Christmas, who's going to put up the lights, who's going to put up the tree, that dynamic and tension there. But when like Ralphie, no, his family's not giving him any kind of indication that he's going to get this gift that he really really wants, this BB gun, he's going to go to Santa, and he's at the mall and he's in line, and I just love that whole play of this anticipation of he's going to sit on Santa's lap and Santa's going to understand. But while he's in line, he's in front of this or behind this dude who has these goggles on or whatever, and he's like, and every time like the Wizard of Oz witch walks by, he's like, I like witches, I like Santa. I just love that kid so much. Like that's one of my favorite like little subtle moments. And then he makes his way up to Santa and they're going to close. And even Santa's like, kid, shoot your eye out. And he's the most awful Santa of all time. The elf is like super creepy and awful. And the cinematography of him watching up and the elf like in his face, it's just brilliantly shot. And then he gets pushed down the slide, and his parents come by just to pick him up. Like they left him alone in the line in the mall. You never do that now. And he's just laying there in this like cotton fake snow, depressed. Just that whole play from the beginning to the end is one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie that I have to watch every time. It gets me every time.
That's hilarious. Yeah. I'm so thankful, especially watching movies like this, that my family was not one that's like, let's go out and get like Christmas pictures and all of that kind of stuff. Because like, I'm not going to lie to you, man, the idea of taking my child and sending him on the lap of a complete and total stranger dressed up like anything, I don't care. It's not about it. It's not about the holiday. It's the entire concept is fascinating to me, that people are like, let's do this. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. It's a strange tradition. And but there's a part of like the magic of Christmas that there is, like the whole Santa thing and the gift giving and the build up to it and whether it's going to happen or not is still all there. And we still try to create that within our family. My kids are in college, but we still have this kind of anticipation and try to make it surprising. And we lean into the whole Saint Nicholas, that there is like literally a Christian saint, Saint Nicholas who defended the poor. And we even have a prayer of Saint Nicholas that we pray every Christmas Eve as a family, where it is like we pray for the children, the poor, the doubters, those tossed by the tempest of the sea, because Saint Nicholas is the patron saint to sailors as well, travelers, that just kind of lean into, which is Santa's traveling to every single house. That makes sense. That's a part of the going deeper, but yeah, there's just a family dynamic, that kind of thing, and other kids. I think the friendship there. The quote for me that like really stood out is the triple dog dare. Like the build up. Like my friend group, we're not pranksters, and we didn't like push each other too hard. But yeah, that whole like build up of the dare, the dog dare, the double dog, the triple dog dare, that eventually the dude's left out in the snow and no one wanting to rat out, and they look out the window and he's still out there wailing his arms around. The police and firemen have to come. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. There's so many movies, or so many moments in this movie that are just, that's part of why I've yet to, so as of the time of recording this, I have not gone to go watch the sequel that came out on HBO. I think it is. It's HBO Max. Because like these delayed sequels that most of them that I've seen done just haven't really been very good. They haven't like actually captured the essence. And so for me, I don't think the movie needs a sequel. I think the movie is a well done story in and of itself. You don't need anything else attached to it.
Yeah, like even my kids came home for Thanksgiving and Yeah, like they came home and then we started talking about Christmas prep. When are we going to do what? When are they coming home from exams? When are we going to grab our tree? You know, they're not in the house anymore, so we got to think through their college schedule and when they're going to get home. Kind of different dynamic for us. But then I was like, hey, we watched the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, and I was like, hey, there is a Christmas Story sequel on HBO. Do you guys want to go down that road? You want to watch it? I'm kind of curious. And my own kids were like, is it gonna make A Christmas Story like any better? Like we love that movie so much. We don't want anything to taint how we see the original movie. Please,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't. They were very hilarious. So I'm gonna have to watch on my own just to kind of see what it's about. If I could pass it on to the family and say this is worth watching all together as a family. But yeah, it's out there, and I don't know if yeah, I'm curious for our listeners that are out there. If you've watched it, get back to us. Should we? Should we not? What's your take? Does it complement this movie? Does it make this movie better? Is it just, you know, they're two separate things? I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see an older Ralphie and see what he looks like and what he's up to and if there's narration. But yeah, I liked you know, 9-year-old Ralphie and I have a younger brother named Randy who was a picky eater and had to drag everywhere as well when I was a kid.
That's funny.
So now that and now my brother's like a chef and like cooks. And he's a lot bigger than me, taller than me. So it's pretty funny that had that connection there with the movie.
That is funny. So I've actually been to the house. I used to live in I used to live in Cleveland for a spell, and this whole deal is like the movie is a very big deal in the Midwest.
Sure.
Between Ohio, Minnesota, a little bit of a spell in Chicago. I've been a little bit everywhere in the Midwest, and it is it's funny how much that is like an institutional piece because it does show Midwestern life like pretty well. You know what I mean? Like that pretty much is life for Midwesterners, you know?
Yeah, and I heard somewhere that you can actually stay in that house on Christmas Day, like it's a 2-year waiting list or something. But I think it's like an Airbnb or like a you know, one of these places you can rent out and go and have the experience. I think that's the case. I overheard that. But yeah, it's a place you can go and visit and see the actual house and perhaps even stay in it. But it's very expensive and you have a long wait or waiting list to get into this thing. But that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like the Scream House, like that. There's a couple of locations from famous movies that they ever since Airbnbs and stuff like that became a thing. They've really there's been a huge uptick in these kinds of destination spots where for a couple days out of the year they open it up to guests and all of that kind of stuff. I heard the same thing that you can stay in there, but fascinating that's become a thing.
No, it is. It's funny. But and for me, like the whole snow wintry thing, I grew up on the beaches of North Carolina. So we got maybe a half a snow day or a little bit of a snow every other year or something. But in terms of you growing up in the snow, I like, there's almost, you know, a nostalgia thing for having a white Christmas and having snow on Christmas, and it's romanticized and sentimental and that kind of stuff. For you, how does this come into play? When you see snow, you're like, oh, this is awesome. Let's bring back me. Or are you like, oh my gosh, please, no more.
Snow and white Christmas. That's romanticized by exactly two groups of people, right? Ready? Mm-hmm. People who don't live in snow and lunatics. It's one of the two of them. So yeah, there is something to, you know, the first time the white stuff falls and it's pretty, and then for 30 seconds you say that it's pretty, and as a kid you appreciate it a lot more because generally the extent is maybe you have to shovel it, but mostly it's about playing in it, and you don't have to do this thing called driving it. And so it's a lot more magical when you're a kid. So I do understand as a kid the nostalgia tie of like snow days and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's more about seeing it through the lens of Midwesterners because it's wild. I remember the first time, I may have told the story on the show. I've told it before, but I've remember the first time that I heard that a storm was coming. and they
Mhm.
were shutting down the cooperative space that we were in, and for the day, early for the weekend, it was Friday, all this stuff, and I'm like, it's a little snow. I'm from the Northeast, so we are a bit of a snow globe. So I'm not unused to winter conditions and all of that kind of stuff. I got home at 4, bro. 4:45, there was like a foot of snow on the ground. It was
Mm,
insanity. Like, I've never seen snow come that fast and furious before. So like, to wake up and to see everything just caked white like
yeah.
that, yeah, I
Mhm.
could see a kid growing up like that. You know what I mean? For
Yeah.
us in Northeast, it's a little bit more like ice, not quite as heavy of snowfall and all of that, but yeah.
Yeah, and I like that this movie that came out in the '80s, it has some edginess to it too. Like you said, like
Yeah.
whether it's washing your mouth out with soap, but the fudge, saying the words, getting your friend in trouble because you say you learned that word from your friend, and you hear the smack of the kid in the background. But yeah, we got to talk about the lamp.
Yeah.
We got to talk about the lamp. Like there it is. Like the prized possession of this dad. He earned it as an award. Like and putting it out, and the mom's like, "Oh my gosh!" and the neighbors looking at it. Like it is amazing that how far this movie has come. It was a funny moment, somewhat edgy moment in the movie, and then now, like in terms of all that we have, in terms of like nostalgia and pop culture making it onto the shelves, that now you can actually buy this actual lamp, that if you really wanted to buy it, you could buy it, and you can find it on Amazon and get it to you and have it up by Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. So is now the point where I say that we have that lamp?
Yes. All right. You have it. Yes.
Yeah.
That is a good reveal.
Yeah.
That is a good reveal. Yes. I love that.
Yeah, that so we when we were building out our ornaments and all of that, we were both my wife and I have started a new chapter as far as how we view Christmas and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so we went out a couple of years ago and purposefully picked out a handful of ornaments to start our tree together and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
First one I pick up is the lamp.
Yes.
And
I
that
love that.
and then that extended out to decorations. So we have a I don't know, probably about 4 foot tall Jack Skellington in a Christmas
Mm-hmm.
hat,
Yep.
and we have the lamp.
That's great. That's great. I
Yeah.
don't think I have any a Christmas Story memorabilia or ornaments or things like that, but it's out there, and it's definitely a movie that runs on repeat throughout the day. But that's classic, man. I love that. Yeah, and then I think one of the enduring nature of this movie, it has its comedic moments. You have this kind of tension of, is he going to get the gift? Is he not going to get the gift? What is going on? Does anybody notice him? You got the bullies, you got the cussing, you got the snow, you got the lights, the frustration. But you have this dad that looks pretty disengaged, and does what dads do in the '40s or whatever. But there at the end of the Christmas opening of gifts and that whole morning, he leans over to Ralphie and he's like, "Oh, isn't there one more gift back there?"
Yeah.
And unbeknownst to the whole family, he got the kid what he really goes, "I don't know, maybe." And then the mom's like, "When did we get that?" And he's like, "I don't know, maybe Santa got it." And I just loved that play, and that he eventually gets the toy that he really wanted. But we learned it's not really a toy. The whole movie, you're going to shoot your eye out, and he's had this built up fantasy. He's going to defend his house against robbers, and he's going to use it. First time he uses it, it doesn't work out. It doesn't work out. An icicle fell in his eye, broke
Yep.
his glasses.
Yep. It's so funny that like they kept it slice of life enough that it wasn't a matter of, we're going to, it's all going to work out in the end and there's not going to be any problems whatsoever and all of that. Like, nope, he got the gift, and then an icicle fell in his eye and he, almost shot his eye out,
Yeah, yeah, and I just think it's a movie. It has all its tropes and all those things, but I think it's just masterful storytelling as you follow them along. Whether it's the narration, the flashbacks, the daydreaming, the build up to the end. the tension and the dynamics of the family and friends and bullies. For me, it's there's not much wrong with it, and builds all the way to the end where they have this kind of moment together as a family, eating dinner together under the warmth of kind of Christmas. And yeah, we're a people of faith Christian podcast who would love to lean into keep Christ in Christmas. Okay, y'all, let's do that. Let's make sure we're intentional about that. The season of Advent is challenging. It tells you to slow down and reflect on what our true longings are, what we truly hope for in life. And this movie has no really like overtly kind of religious themes to it. It doesn't acknowledge like the nativity scene, but all those things are revolve around kind of gifts and family and friends and what matters most as you're growing up and trying to discover who you are in the world and live in this kind of crazy comedic world we live in. It's all there. All the ingredients are there.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you can point to pretty categorically as far as what makes this movie so special when it doesn't really have a lot of the same kind of hallmark things. As a matter of fact, if you look at it realistically, it has some of the very concepts and things that people who are anti-materialistic, people like myself, like that we hate this movie. Like this should be like capitalism 101, don't like it, all of that kind of stuff. Like you said, keep Christ in Christmas. So why does a movie like this get the pass? I think because it's not about the gift. It's about the magic of the holiday as a kid. You know what I mean? And whether or not you had that and reminisce on that, or if you didn't have that and you lived vicariously through the people on the screen, I think either way, it's that putting the magic into the holiday and the whimsical kid experience that can happen is part of what makes this movie as special as it is.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Yeah, I think I can't add anything more to that than yeah, it gives a pass because of what's there and underneath it, and yeah, wherever you are in your faith or traditions or whether what you do with Christmas, we acknowledge that Christmas can be a very warm and jolly and festive time for folks, but it can also be very hard and stressful and anxiety ridden because of in terms of whether it's family or life or loss or grief, that the expectations, the weight of expectations of what you're trying to create can overwhelm what the true meaning of the season is all about. And so if you have to make it simpler, if you have to boil it down, if you have to just be honest with your family and friends and say, you know what, I'm going to do less for Christmas this time because that is what I need. It's really about the friendship, the family, that lean into what makes it magical and that kind of the light of hope. You know, if we're going to bring a new light into the world, how are we shining our light in the midst of all that is heavy and dark in this world? So yeah. And then what gifts are we sharing? What's contagious in our lives when it comes to that? So awesome.
Yeah, I think that this movie feels like this is an opportunity to let people know that if this is something that you as a Christian, like as a Christian, it is cool to watch these kinds of movies. Like it's cool to be cool with some of the things that are talked about and allow for it to just be an enjoyable experience, even if it's not Christocentric. And you know, it's still okay to like Christmas stuff that's not Christocentric.
Yeah. And yeah, the rest of our movies we're going to talk about are the same way. You know, there's not really kind of Christocentric themes in there. We're not doing Charlie Brown Christmas. You know, we picked the four just because it lends into there. Of course, there's a lot of other extra movies we can bring in, Christocentric ones or others, whether it's Christmas Vacation or others. But you know, there's only 4 weeks in Advent that lead up to Christmas, so these are the ones we do, and there'll be other Christmases. But yeah, we thought we'd start off with a bang, one of the best ones out there that we love, and go from there. So yeah, so we'll, if there's anything else you want to share, we'll kind of wrap this up. Head to the landing. All right. So we did in our last preview, we talked about fake tree, real tree, and we kind of revealed ours. And we'll ask those questions to other hosts when they're on the other movies. But yeah, so I'll ask Joe this other question: lights on the outside of your house, or just on the inside on your tree? Do you do lights outside on your house?
Yeah, we do. We have a porch that we put lights up on.
Nice. Our family, my dad was kind of minimalist when it came to, bless his heart, just in terms of the exertion of what he tried to do. Just getting the tree up was all that Bill Rose could do. But so we didn't really have lights outside of our house, and we were kind of on a back street on the beach that not people ride down, so it made no sense. We didn't have a lot of traffic on our street, but we would ride around and look at other houses that put those lights up. And our family's we're at the end of the street too, but it's kind of dark where we are. So I've wrapped lights around kind of our roof every Christmas to put them out, and it is kind of nice to have that glow. We leave it up even in like deep January. We have those lights still up because it's like, man, it just looks cool. We got the fat traditional lights, colored lights on on our roof, and it just kind of lights down the street from a mile away. As you're driving up, you see it. So that's what we are.
That's funny.
Yeah, so thanks for listening, friends. We hope that your holiday is kicked off on a good start, and good start for your holy days leading up to Christmas. And yeah, we love this movie. Let us know what you think about the movie, whether it's on social media or on our website. Other movies that you like that bring out the holiday spirit for you, and we'd love to hear from you. And again, thanks. We're glad that you can pull up and get out your goodies and gifts for another edition of Drive-In. And we'll see you next time at the movies.
This was an Anazao Ministries podcast. If you enjoyed this show and would like to learn more about our network, be sure to check out the Anazao Ministries Podcast Network.